Alright, I'll go ahead and say that I'm sorry. My first couple videos on here were pretty much an experiment for me. A visual divulgence of written reviews that I do just for the heck of it. Since that freshman year at college, I've transferred schools and faced heavier loads from tougher classes. In retrospect, making a trilogy was probably not a great way to kick off these reviews, but hey, you can't change the past. So with that, let's kick back where we left off. Behold, the missing piece of the good, the bad, and the ugly. Within good, I gave some context for what I really appreciated in film, with Perfect Blue. An imperfect film that I nevertheless enjoyed the delivery of. Within bad, I reflected upon the fun subculture of hilariously bad films. Bargain bin mistakes like The Christmas Tree, that were made in either troubled situations or because of their simple need to be a cash grab. Despite that, though, these films ironically become more interesting because of their surprise factor and strange choices during the filmmaking process. So now we have ugly. I don't consider myself a negative person when it comes to film. There are plenty of brilliant new films coming out in the modern era, regardless of what films actually profit from market demands. I don't get super mad with films, but rather form a sort of disappointment for those that could have improved their execution. Any film archetype can work for me when set up correctly. Even my weaker genres like drama or romance have pulled out some ringers for me. So, what constitutes ugliness within film? To answer this, one has to consider the acceptable level that a film needs to reach. This differs between people, of course, but for me, a film should meet one of two quotas: a fresh idea or a fresh execution. These are somewhat vague concepts, so I'll explain. A fresh idea is a great new concept, motif, setting, or scenario a film can introduce. This is probably the harder of the two to achieve, since most ideas are just a reflection of previously viewed concepts. This doesn't necessarily mean an entirely new idea, but new enough for cinema fans. For example, the recent phenomena that dominated box office records has been Marvel movies. Superhero movies have existed for a long time, with Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, and other heroes getting the spotlight across decades. But Marvel heroes rarely occupied that limelight. However, starting in 2008 with Iron Man, the era of the Marvel Cinematic Universe began to form. The movies had a unified style, the ability to serialize between movies, and thus build up characters for longer than just 2 hours. And the level of crossover previously achieved only in hour specials on TV. It was an outstanding idea. So, while the stories were mostly from reference material, the MCU concept was a fresh idea. A fresh execution involves taking something previously done and transforming it through a different lens, whether it be a update, recontextualization, parody, commentary, sequel, etc. With a fresh execution, the film admits that it's borrowing from a previous property, but does something different with it to make it stand out. An easy example being Toy Story 2. This movie has the same universe and characters as the first movie, but tells new stories and introduces new characters. The narratives between these two movies focus on different topics, but they also somewhat resonate with one another, like how Jessie experiences the problems Woody has in the first movie. Each one stands out, so Toy Story 2 is a fresh execution. In short, the movie needs to have some new mixture of elements to intrigue me. In my eyes, if the movie hits the same beats as another movie, but worse, then what's the point? Just watch the better movie again. A lot of mediocre movies exist for the purpose of bringing back the emotions the audience felt from a previous thing. The new one might be sloppier, but it looks new, so it tricks you just long enough to watch it, and just short enough for you to forget. Thus, the most detestable thing a movie can be is redundant. That is the ugliness that a film can present. While I do have a valid contender to whine about, I decided to include a bonus honorable mention, since my main pick is a bit more niche. I am, of course, talking about RoboCop 2014. You know, that remake of RoboCop. He had a black suit on? Don't remember it? Well, congratulations, you found the problem. Yes, I know I mentioned it last review as well, but there's more to say about it here. One thing to recognize about films like these is that they aren't bad. The film actually has plenty of decent reviews, praising it for changing direction from its predecessor. And it does. While the original was a satire on the desensitization within the media and the police of 1980s America, RoboCop 2014 goes a bit more political and comments on 2010-era concepts, like drones, the breach of privacy for the sake of safety, and how tech corporations can excavate vast amounts of data from average consumers. Looking back on it, it's actually a fine remake, but it's an average film. The political questions within the film aren't anything new within cinema. Heck, The Social Network does a lot better foreshadowing the looming threat of technological developments within society, and it came out 4 years earlier. From an action and acting perspective, the film does okay as well, but it has nothing to write home about. As a result, it doesn't really have any legs to stand on. The only reason anybody would acknowledge this movie again would be to marathon all the RoboCop movies, but that simply isn't fair to me. A film as basic as this shouldn't be viewed by someone with their only justification being the property that labels it. This is why remakes hit the ugly point so often for me. Many aren't disrespectful to the source material, but rather use source branding as a free pass for ticket sales by fans of that property. If I was making a space epic, traveling across the universe, shooting lasers and all that, but then everybody calls the script terrible, nobody will watch it. But if I rephrased a few things and made it a standalone film within the Star Trek universe, now most Star Trek fans are required to watch my crappy script. This is what I mean when a property becomes a shield for meh movies. It receives profit by obligation rather than by quality. The live-action Disney movies are the best modern example of this problem for me. The stories are virtually the same as their originals, albeit a bit politically charged, but the only new facets are live actors and new CGI that'll look weird in a decade or two. Making these movies again in live action isn't a terrible idea in itself, but you shouldn't charge people theater ticket prices for something they've already seen. It needs to have something inventive to distinguish itself. Given all that, my most detestable film would have to shield itself with a popular property, have nothing new to say, contain zero new film techniques or commentary, prey on the fanbase of a property while also slapping them in the face with the film's blandness, be completely littered with cliches, and physically hurt you with how predictable it is. Now luckily, I haven't found a film that hits all these marks all at once. This is Gem and the Holograms, from 2015. Virtually nobody saw this except fans and internet critics who all got a kick out of crapping on it. Naturally, this made me seek it out as part of my bad movie repertoire. And while not a disgusting film, Gem just turned out to be a perfect storm of all the things I hate personally. Before discussing Gem, I'd like to add some context for myself. First off, I have no affiliation with the source material. Gem and the Holograms was an animated series from the 80s, basically a Hannah Montana situation, but with more futuristic tech and out there plotlines. I never grew up with this and have not seen any episodes in full. I think critics can sometimes be ignored by the general public for their contrarian distaste toward remakes. They perceive them as people who grew up with the stuff and are just whining because something is different. Something in the vein of, I watched A New Hope as a kid, and now Disney's ruining my childhood with Last Jedi. Blah blah blah, other whining. To avoid this possible bias, I will merely reference the Gem fans a couple of times within my notes. I am against this film on an objective level, and find the film still awful without the remake problems. Secondly, this film has a majority female cast, but this doesn't matter to me either. For the filmmaking jabs, I can blame the dudes, since they directed, wrote the script, and edited it. As for the female cast, I have absolutely no problem with that either. A, I have no qualms with the acting, but rather the characters and writing that they have to act and say. B, my favorite film, Perfect Blue, and my favorite video game story, Night in the Woods, both have females as the main protagonist. Mima, Rumi, Mae Borowski, B. Santello, Lori M., and Selmers were all engaging characters that vastly improved my experience within both narratives. When given the proper material to work with, female characters can be astonishingly powerful within stories that I enjoy. With that being said, it's time to start whining. Section 1. Tropes. As soon as you start the film, you immediately get a sense of familiarity. Not the comforting familiarity of remembering a fond moment from the past, but rather the sensation that the film's beats and feel have been done to death. This occurs frequently, and results in the entire movie having a stale and empty feeling. If you have seen any decent number of films, I'm sure you will feel the same way when viewing this picture. For example, the protagonist, Jerica, kicks off the film with some sappy dialogue that I feel like it shows up every time in these teen medias.
But with all the identities we have access to online, there's always been one question I haven't been quite able to answer. Which one's the real you? Now, I know that sounds like something I got off a poster in my guidance counselor's office, but that doesn't change the fact that it's the truth.
I saw the swings where Wilson and I shared so much. The park where Jared...
Stop the bus! We fixed everything! Stop the bus!
Where Jared gave his heart to me. The picket fences on the streets. Streets I walked 1,000 times. Our old house. Its for sale sign mocking me from the front lawn.
As for the actual plot, tell me if you've heard this one before. A family full of quirky characters are enjoying themselves at their house in a small town. The more outgoing sisters are having fun, but Jerica, the shy one with a special gift, is too modest to show her talent. When she records herself singing at night with a camera, she promptly deletes it out of embarrassment. However, she accidentally leaves the video intact, allowing her sister to post the video on YouTube, as a way of boosting her sister's self-esteem. Literally, the next day. The video is a hit, and the biggest contract dealer offers the fictional Gem a contract. The sisters go to LA, form a band, rock out in concerts, break up over some stupid drama, reunite after 8 in-film minutes, and then tell their audience that Gem can be anybody with some inspirational quotes and all that. So, just with that summary, we have already hit the stereotypical rags to riches trope and the band breaking up trope, both of which are quite easy to write. Like, come on. The More Cowbell skit does the band breakup trope in 6 minutes, and that still feels more genuine.
Come on, Jim!
With the Gem breakup, Jerica signs a solo contract because that's the only way to save her family from being evicted out of their house. That's right, this film has to save the orphanage trope as well, since Jerica's mother's business hasn't been doing well, somewhat forcing Jerica to become a successful pop idol in order to make the ends meet anyway. It also has the evil music manager trope, who gives Jim that crappy contract in the first place. So now we have 4 tropes within the plot, but we aren't done yet. Jerica has a dead engineer dad, who tinkered with bots all the time and left her one, known as Synergy, before he died. As Jerica and the sisters do their concerts, they find out that Jerica's dad left missing pieces of Synergy throughout LA. So now, the band has a MacGuffin race to find all the parts, with the end result being a holographic message from her dad saying, "My greatest creation is you," followed by other crap about believing in yourself and all that. Basically, every inspirational dead dad quote you can think of. Also, in order to get the last piece of Synergy, Jerica's earrings, they have to break into the music manager's office safe. Why are Jerica's earrings in the safe? Because the manager said they weren't trendy enough and was just keeping them safe. What this means is that the manager does not care about the earrings at all. Jerica could have just asked for them back. She's an idol by this point after all. So not only is the entire break-in scene pointless filler, but it actually makes the film more predictable because it's your typical tense third act scene, despite nothing being at stake at all. When you look at the film in its entirety, it is completely tenseless and bland. The film barrages you with the concept of being special, not alone, and to say what you want to say, despite the film saying nothing at all. It's simple stuff. Create your own destiny, be yourself, use your gifts, etc. The film is mostly drama, but the drama is not engaging because the characters are too bland and they just cannot emote properly. A lot of their history and bonding moments are said rather than done, leaving you disinterested. So, with a weak plot, weak characters, and weak drama, the film is a tepid mess with nothing but tropes to lure you in. Do you want to see the painful breakup of an amazing band? Then go watch some documentary of a band you like. Do you want to see a fun break-in sequence? Go watch an action movie. Do you want to see the inner struggle between a pop star persona and the human underneath? Then watch either Hannah Montana or the old Gem Show. I actually liked some of the Hannah Montana as a kid, because of its wholesome Disney comedy. The characters were pleasantly goofy, and they didn't take anything too seriously. It was just classic fun. Gem and the Holograms 2015 is the barest of bare bones, and simply has nothing to stand on when it comes to an entertaining screenplay. Section 2. Internet. This film has a weird relationship with the internet. The film initially gives you the idea that the internet will have a bigger influence within the plot, but that is soon revealed to be false. All that happens is the first Gem video getting popular on the internet, which leads to the contract deal later with the band. Well, first off, the sisters absolutely freak out over the video getting 36,000 views. That is the highest view count the video gets, which is actually pathetic YouTube-wise. In the current YouTube era, including 2015, when this was filmed, thousands of YouTubers have over 1 million subscribers. Many niche channels can easily pull 500,000 views on a video. Want to know what YouTube video has 35,000 views as of recording this? I'm serious. The point is, no responsible company would immediately give a contract to a YouTube star like this. As for the rest of the film, a bizarre editing choice is made. In nearly every montage of the film, some random YouTube video at 360p is being spliced in. It looks absurd and adds nothing. It's a straight up distraction at times. With the exception being the popular Gem video, this movie is mainly pop star stuff. So why all the YouTube videos? My initial suspicion was the director, John Chu. While he may have Crazy Rich Asians under his belt now, his original claim to fame was the 2 Justin Bieber documentaries he directed. How do you make 2? Anyway, it's likely that Chu just likes the internet popularity idea so much that he gives YouTube multiple shoutouts. However, I think there's a different reason. This movie was made on $5 million. Crazy cheap for a wide release. The crowds in the film are small, the effects are limited, and the sets are tight. So the YouTube videos were likely an easy out for recording good footage. The cheap theory is also supported by one other thing. Every location transition where you the establishing shot, it's done with Google Earth. I'm not joking. Literally any open still shot would work. I've done that in Tide. Why on earth would you use Google Earth for this? It looks so terrible. The internet is also used in one more facet, and that is Section 3. Fan base. Okay, so random YouTube clips. Stupid, but nothing inherently bad. What was bad came in the treatment of Gem fans. When the film was being made, the team asked the cartoon Gem fans to send them their praises on the internet, videos showing how much they loved the show, with the winners getting small roles in the movie itself. Later on, though, they changed the prize to simply showing the clip in the movie. The clips were passionate, women talking about how their self-esteem improved, how they recovered from terrible places thanks to the positivity within the show. Even some tears were shed. Great stuff. In the film, these clips were spliced into some of the music numbers within the movie, edited to look like praise for the movie versions of the characters. While I don't know the responses of every participant, most commented negatively on the choice, since the show they love was quite different from the movie. This didn't even logically make sense within the movie, since fans were clearly wearing the cartoon logo and merchandise. They also did this editing scheme to garner praise from celebrities, taking comments from Jimmy Fallon, Dwayne Johnson, and Chris Pratt out of context to laud the movie band. Either way, this editing choice was quite a slap to fans, and confusing to every other viewer. Section 4. Potential. I find that the biggest pain to me in viewing this was that it could have been something helpful to a new generation of viewers. One of my favorite things about Perfect Blue is the dichotomy between who we pretend to be and who we are. Mima's battle between her pop persona and who she is behind closed doors can apply to anybody who performs to impress. And when you consider the idea that all children within this social media generation are performing on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, etc., this idea could have resonated with almost everyone. While Perfect Blue was limited by language and age being made in the 90s, Gem and the Holograms could have been a modern example. It knew all the technology. Audrey Peoples is not a bad lead actress when she isn't spewing fake drama, and the pop songs in the movie might compel teen audiences. If Gem and the Holograms made a commentary on fake personas that Jericho's monologue hints at, it could have been a fresh execution that justified the film's existence. This different tone and message would have provided the distinct style that the film so desperately needed. They were already changing things around from the show, so going for this more positive message probably was the best move. However, the film plays so safe that it just physically hurts me. It avoids new things, yet somehow still managed to piss the fan base off. What a miracle. All in all, this made me feel terrible. But what hurts me more is that I know some people would call this film okay, that I'm overreacting. But it's money sinks like this that genuinely concern me about how well we trust filmmakers to produce quality works. Luckily though, my opinion is somewhat vindicated, since this film absolutely tanked at the box office.
Bruh.
With that budget of $5 million, the film raised only $1.4 million on opening weekend, one of the worst ever for a wide-release film. It also got shelved from theaters after only 2 weeks, leaving a total box office of $2.3 million. To further clarify how much this sucks, Clerks had a budget of $27,000, but still managed to get a box office of $3 million with a limited release. While Gem and the Holograms does have tolerable execution on some parts of filmmaking, the lack of distinctiveness, flair, or any general appeal makes this my least recommendable film ever. It has nothing new plot-wise, no twists, no turns, no characters to fall in love with, no fun directional execution. It's just because of all this, I find Gem and the Holograms 2015 to be an absolute 0 out of 10. Congratulations, we made it through good, bad, and Where's Ugly already. It's been like a year. Better late than never, I suppose. Hey, what's up? It's me from the future. I'm just once again apologizing because this was literally recorded and sat dead since like mid-2019, around like when Endgame came out. That's how old it's been. I just never finished it up. I kind of got into school and like lost track of it. But yeah, I kept it in the way, I kept it preserved as well as I could to the original formatting. But yeah, that's the end of that trilogy for finally. I apologize to Connor, you know who you are. But yeah, I'll still be posting stuff on here sporadically. I definitely want to do the review things, but I need to keep it more brief. This was just absurd. But thank you all for staying with it, and hope you all check in every now and then. See y'all later.